right.
This might work out now.
Good evening, everyone. We're going to start the Monday, October 17th Planning Board meeting. Melody Moore, our chair, is away this evening, so I'm filling in for her. As our first order of business, I guess we ask whether there are any changes to the agenda or any comments, any communications from anyone? I believe there are no changes, is that correct?
The addition of the board referral from the ZBA.
We have a ZBA referral that will be discussed at the end of the meeting, yes. So there is one addition. Next, the approval of Jim's meeting notes. Are there any questions on those meeting notes? May I have a motion
So move.
and a second?
Second.
Michael and Delise, thanks very much. And next, approval of the October 3rd minutes. Are there any questions or any changes on those? We have to vote on Jim's meeting notes. Thank you very much. All in favor of
Aye.
approval?
Aye.
Thank you very much. And next, approval of the October 3rd minutes. Any changes or comments? Then may I have a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
Thank you. And all in favor say aye, please.
Aye.
Thank you very much. And I think we've discussed no correspondence or announcements, correct? Is there anything? No.
The 2023 scheduled
Oh.
meetings, we just have to approve that.
Okay. Did I get a copy of that?
Did email, but. I think you got it.
Oh, I missed that. Thank you. All right, so here we are with the schedule for next year for our planning board meeting. And are there any issues or any need for discussion of this?
I can't think of any.
Then a motion, please, to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you very much. I'll say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right, and now we can move on to our new application for the evening, which is Labatsky Soil Mine.
Good evening. Mark Levinsky, representing the Lovatsky Soil Mine. This is an application for site plan and special permit with this board as part of the 5-year renewal that is required for special permit by this board, and also 5-year renewal required by the New York State DEC for soil mining. This property has been in application in front of this board multiple times for renewal. It is a total property size is approximately 54 acres in size. The entire mining area, which is this area right here, is a little more than 12 acres in size. Everything that is gray shaded like this has been mined or reclaimed. And for this particular application, there's only a very small area to be mined. It's this section right here. This is the only remaining area to be mined. This all hatched area here is the area that's noted to be reclaimed. So it's anticipated that this mine will be complete in either this year or next year. It's currently, although it's entitled the Lovatsky Soil Mine, it's mined by Richard Vonderly. And if the board members recall, material is excavated from this and then just trucked to the Vonderly Soil Mine for processing. That is the trucks don't leave here to deliver to, off-site. It's just material is taken from this mine and processed at the Von Leaf soil mine. And as we discussed earlier with the Von Leaf soil mine, it's very minor traffic impact on White Schoolhouse Road. Only periodically a few loads a day that leave this mine for processing. Once again, it's just fairly straightforward, and as I noted here, this is the only area remaining to be mined, which is it's a little more than a quarter acre size. Application has been made to New York State DEC. It was back in July, I believe. We have not heard back from DEC. Not anticipating any issues with the mine. There's no outstanding violations or anything like that. So expect DEC approval shortly.
Is that all?
Yes, it is.
And Jim, you had quite a few notes of things that the planning board might want to pay attention to as we review this.
Yeah, so my notes, planning board, when we did the Von Relief reapproval, which is essentially the same thing on a different property just down the road a couple months ago. The comments that I have in my memo are pretty much verbatim what was on the Von Relief mine renewal permit. Just making sure that we're looking at this from the same perspective. I do understand this is a small area. You said work might even be done this year or next year, so obviously a shorter timeline. Just wanted to remind the board that the mine land reclamation law declaration policy states that it is the practice of New York to support mining. The DEC does control permitting of the mine itself. That is not something the planning board regulates. The planning board regulates things related to the mine, such as traffic. And related to that, even though this is a renewal permit, as we did with bond relief, I think again, it's just important for the board to, if you haven't, refamiliarize yourself with the Dutchess County Transportation Council safety assessment of Slate Quarry Road, related to concerns around crashes and recommendations for improvements, just as it relates to traffic on that road, and then more specific to this project and the others that are on White Schoolhouse Road, related to truck traffic. So if everyone remembers, when Red Wing came in, we talked about the potential impact of truck traffic. They are not before the planning board currently. When Mr. Von Relief came in, we again talked about truck traffic and stated that we just requested that he be willing to come back to the table to discuss truck traffic if and when Red Wing comes back in. I think the same request should be made this time as well, that if they're still in operation at the time that Red Wing might come back in, that they'd be willing to come to the table to talk about truck traffic, because it's the combined truck traffic that we've discussed as being a potential issue and concern residents and members of the board. So just ask that you might be willing to do that, and we would ask to put that in the approval resolution.
I will discuss that with Mr. Robotsky.
What else? Just wanted to note, you requested a waiver from the freshwater wetlands law, as I believe has been done in the past.
That's correct.
And that has been approved in the past.
That's correct.
What else?
But you're suggesting in this case, Jim, that the planning board ask the Conservation Advisory Board to take a look and advise us on that?
I think, yeah, because it's before us, I think it's worth asking the CAB for their, but they would get this anyway, as a matter of course, through the procedural resolution. But I think if the planning board wants to follow the path that has been done in the past, which is probably the way we would go unless sees otherwise, we'd still be looking to do the same process as has been done by previous permit resolutions. If someone feels or the CAB feels for some reason that shouldn't be the path, that's what I want to get is the input from that. Just to see if we feel like we continue the same way that the renewals have been done before, or if there's a reason to look at something different.
Right, and it is a landing turtle site. Okay.
It's kind of similar to what I said about the truck traffic. There is a new discussion item that may not have been there in the past. I want to make sure we just cover that and make sure everyone's discussed it if needed. I think that those were the main points.
You would also ask that the applicant give a summary of the anticipated traffic.
Oh, yes.
And also a detailed write-up.
Yeah, so Mark, with Vonda, to give us a kind of a quick memo, just the anticipated traffic in and out, if you could provide us with that. I didn't see it in the applications, because I missed it, I apologize.
No, I did not include it, so
If we could just get a quick letter, just kind of stating what the anticipated truck traffic is in and out on
Okay.
a daily basis. That would be good.
Yeah, just so the board, so the travel to this piece. This is the Bonnery soil line here, there's Milwaukee, so trucks leave here, they're just a short distance on Marshfield Hospital, and then processing takes place on this parcel.
Right, which is an activity that's been ongoing for a while.
That's correct, it has been ongoing since the inception. Actually, this mining application was an amendment to the original, and so I can provide that information to the board, how long it's been in existence, how long that this process has been.
And that's all the information we'd like to have in the file, so that if and when we do get to a broader discussion related to truck traffic on West Schoolhouse Road, we have that basic information to work from, and obviously some of the discussion.
Understood.
And then, Jim, you had asked for a more complete narration of, exactly what's going to happen at the mine.
Yeah, but great, that would be included, I think, in that letter, just kind of a description of what's happening in the, estimated number of trips.
Okay, so just with regard to truck traffic, because I also included, maybe I didn't, I included there was a project narrative that was included in the EEC application. Once again, it just describes, above water table, below water table, mining operation. It does not speak to specific numbers of truck traffic, which I will provide the board.
So Mark gets all of my comments. These memos are given to the applicants after each meeting, so they usually take those and trucks them as well. So you get a copy.
Right, I guess the reason I like to make it more explicit in public is so that the public can understand what we're asking for. Is there anything else? On your comments? Okay. And from the rest of the board, any questions or comments on this so far? Then I guess we're ready for an approval resolution? Procedure.
I'll read it.
Oh, okay, you read it.
So we have a draft procedure resolution for your consideration tonight for the application by Wabatsi Soil Mine for site plan special use permit under Town Code Chapter 125, accepting the application supporting documents as adequate for further review by the planning board as advisors and the public, classifying the action as unlisted under seeker, scheduling a public hearing for November 21st at 6:15 p.m. We'll send this to the CAB for review, we'll send it to Dutchess County for review, and we need to delegate at least 2 planning board members for a site plan.
Joe will go, and who else?
I'll go with Joe.
Sean or Craig and Joe?
Yep.
All right. And so I guess we need a motion to approve this resolution.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're ready to move on to public hearings. And the first is the Cardenas application.
Oops, you just walked in.
Hello, well, we're ready for your presentation.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. All right. I added the information that was requested.
Would you please go to the mic
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
and
I
just,
am Naveen Sidarus. I work for McCartney Contracting. I'm representing Cardenas/Caitlin Ryder for this project. And we were trying to get permission to finalize the fence so that it would go to the existing barn and add solar panels on the roof, which I was told that they shouldn't be higher than the peak, so I had that amended. And I sent it to Gretchen, and then we wanted to include a generator.
And I think there are other photos, Jim, are there, that show what's happening here?
I have submitted photos.
Let's move on. Did you move before? Is that fine? I'm just looking for the picture. I know you sent them, I can't figure out. which
That's
one.
okay. I think I've seen them.
There are three at the top. That one's scroll down. Oh, yeah, you're right, thank you.
Yeah, that's one.
Scroll down, there we go.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So it's an unusual route where the four sides come together and then there's a flat area.
Right, there is a flat area, and you had mentioned that there shouldn't be anything higher than the peak, so I had the plans revised where they go on the back of the building and they go on the other side of the barn, so that we have enough of an array without including on the peak of the.
Yes, and those drawings were submitted
Yes.
showing them on the back of the barn and on the back of the house,
Correct.
and none on the peak or at the top. So Jim, is there anything more that you'd like to say about this?
No.
No, I just wanted to add the generator because I noticed that on the letter, the minutes for the agenda, there was no mention of the solar panels or the generator, so I wanted to present that. I had sent all the information for it. I just wanted to show that it's going on the back of the building and will not incur any showing that it will be something that will impede the house.
And so I have no additional comments. This needs to be addressed. I don't think impact had any issues based on the letter that I saw from them. So I think everything has been addressed.
What are you doing, you change the roof line?
No, not at all. I'm putting some solar panels. And because of the
Please,
nature
please
of the
wait
site.
until we
Yeah,
finish our
sorry.
discussion here.
I just wanted to grab the things.
Board, any questions or comments on this?
I did the site visit with Sean. Sean's not here, so. Yeah, the house is really close to the road, so with the solar panels on the back, you cannot see anything from the front. We talked about the fence also, correct? The fence runs along the front of the property line, and the plans have it like connecting to the back of the barn, or this side of the barn,
This side of the barn.
which the homeowner told me was because he has kids and dogs, and it makes sense so that they don't get out of the street. There was a slight infringement into the wetlands, correct?
The buffer
Zone. When you look at the property behind the barn, or to the side of the barn, it drops off significantly down to where the actual wetlands are. So it's not a concern at all where they're putting the fence in. It's pretty straightforward, once you saw it.
Okay, and are there any members of the public who would like to ask questions or make comments on this application? Hearing none, it sounds to me like we're ready for a resolution.
Oh, the one other thing was the fence. There was a note about the fence, making sure it was 4 feet, which to our eye was 4 feet.
Thanks very much. So we're ready to then close the public hearing. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
The resolution.
Yes.
Draft approved resolution for the board's consideration for Alejandro Cardenas for site plan review under Town Code Chapter 125 for installation of a fence, rooftop solar panels at 108 Way Road. There it is. Reaffirming the action as type 2 under seeker, based upon the submitted information reviews undertaken, finding that the proposed work to install the fence and rooftop panels is consistent with the objectives and regulations of Chapter 125. With respect to the application for site plan approval, finding the work and intended use to be consistent with Town Code Chapter 125, and approving the application inclusive of submitted materials and site plan by McLean Contracting, and authorizing the planning board chair to stamp and sign the above cited site plan upon the applicant's satisfaction of the 3 conditions listed below.
Thank you, Ken. So, I guess I need a motion to approve this. Right?
So moved.
Second.
And a second from Delise. I'll pull the board. Delise?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
Craig?
Aye.
Joe?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Our next public hearing is Rhinebeck 2020, a minor subdivision. Good evening.
Hey, how are you?
Good to see you.
Good evening, everyone. Rodney Morrison, civil engineer, Seeker, with the landowner of Glendale. The property that we've been talking about is 52 acres off Route 308 on the east side of the village, essentially across from the Village Highway Garage and before we get to Valley Road. Phil, when we originally looked at the property, like I said, 52 acres is a central Hudson easement and pole line moving through it. We looked at a number of different possibilities for residential development. As RC5 zone, 5 acres, if there's 50 acres, you think that you could do a fair amount there, but just the odd geometry of the property really leaves you with well, in a way, kind of the choice that Phil has made here to essentially just keep it a simple subdivision, create 2 nice house lots at this time, work around that central Hudson easement such that 1 lot would exist to both sides of that northeast side of it. There's a nice high knoll, and I know I wasn't on the site walk, I don't know how many of you made it to that. That's a nice house site, and then as well, in the center of the property is an existing pond. If you look back on GIS, actually it shows pretty nicely that the pond in the middle there, and the land is actually mowed and farmed for something. I'm not sure what the date of the photo was, but the idea is just to preserve that pond as a view shed, in essence. Have another home site on the other side. This plan here shows that home site tucked further in than we think is the right spot for it. More likely, it would be in this area here. And I think that was a topic that came up on the site walk as well. We did this originally based on some aerial topo, and when we walked it as well, you walk up the sort of field from the pond, you get a really nice knoll, and then there's a lot of woods back there. So we're not interested in going into those deep woods. That's a great buffer for that property anyway. So then simply the lot 1 driveway here sits on the existing farm road that's out there. That road wraps in pretty much in exactly the spot that we've shown the driveway. The pond elevation is controlled by a culvert that sits there underneath the farm road. In my time out there since spring to now, it looks like elevation and that's pretty consistent, so I assume it's a groundwater at that pond. And then that culvert outlets flows down to Route 308, somewhere on the property line, and then goes under 308 to Landsman's Kill. So we hope to not change any of that. That farm road is basically the perfect location for a driveway anyway. The second lot, since our original application where we showed the driveway further to the east, I did the sight lines out there. There's actually a pretty large rock knoll as you get to the eastern side of the property. Central Hudson also has a taking area in there. So we just decided to pull that driveway much more to the center of the property where we have good sight lines. So that's the difference this plan shows from the one that you had from us originally. I think from that point of view, I'd like to think it's fairly simple, but happy to take any questions.
Okay, yeah, so I only have one new comment since last time. I just do want to mention, as we noted, the driveway does run through the wetland buffer, but it is existing. And at the last meeting, I think we discussed that there might be some grading of the driveway itself, but for all intents and purposes, we're not looking at an additional widening of that, so we'll be utilizing the existing disturbance that's there. The only new comment I have is looking at the driveway for lot number 2. You're going to need to show an easement on there, something over lot 1, and
Yes.
so before you can get the stamp and signed by the planning board chair, we're going to need a copy of the plans with the easement shown, and then also some type of driveway agreement, just kind of a generic driveway agreement that you think the applicants or the eventual owners would have with one another. But other than that, that's the only thing I think that's missing right now. So the board, can consider if we want to that is approval, or if we want to wait, or if there are any other issues. So that's really the only comment I have right now. That needs to be added.
Melody and I did the site visit. The land is largely open with a good deal of brush and shrubs, which I understand will remain for the most part.
Correct.
The heavily wooded area happens to be at the northwest section of the left-hand lot. There's quite a bit of woods up there.
Here.
Yeah, even beyond
Right in
the
there.
house
Right.
site. There are no rock walls that would be disturbed. As I said, the parcels are very open, so there isn't going to be a lot of tree cutting. The pond was interesting. We saw a culvert, but it looked open to the field. In other words, it didn't go underground. Is there also an underground culvert? You said that.
There is a culvert, it's easier to do my fingers than this, right here. It's exactly where the driveway, the farm road crosses, right beside the pond.
Right,
There's a
and we
culvert
saw
right
a
there.
culvert,
Yeah.
but you could see the culvert. In other words, it didn't go underground.
There is another one, the survey picked up in this area here, and I believe there is some other culvert up in the Central Hudson easement. I don't know what it was, maybe it was there for some form of, something to do with agriculture. But it doesn't have water flow, it's something left over. But the main culvert is what, basically the pond being formed, I don't know if it was formed by the farm road, I don't know which came first, but
Right.
there's a culvert under there right now.
Right. There is no apparent stream that emanates from the pond.
Correct. Right, it is intermittent, obviously now it's probably flowing.
And what we saw was a great deal of phragmitis, actually quite a wide swath surrounding the pond,
Correct.
suggesting that the water does rise and keep that area pretty moist. So the driveway is intended to go through the wetland buffer, and you have a permit as part of this, right?
Permit has been submitted, which was requested.
Right.
Previously. Right.
But any additional work that might happen in the future around the pond would require an additional wetland permit.
Okay, I understand. We hadn't thought into the depth of what to do there, other than I've been a part of plenty of other projects where we go through a fragmity removal process. So again, we're not talking about that necessarily here. The pond to me looks pretty attractive. It could be pretty attractive if some of that was thinned out.
I thought so as well. Other members of the board? Comments and questions?
Maybe you mentioned this and I didn't follow it, but why does the driveway cross into lot 1 versus stay in lot 2 the whole time?
Because there's a rock outcropping right here, which
Uh-huh.
limits, if we put the
The
driveway
access.
here, it limits the line of sight. So by moving it there, we had the 500 feet of sight.
Right. We have, I had hoped it to be further down there, but, I mean, I literally used to live right beside the highway garage, and the traffic and the curvature, it just doesn't work out. I can't picture the DOT approving that, so.
Would there be any benefit just from road maintenance agreements and complexities between neighbors and having that lot line just shifted ever so slightly where it still has the driveways on 2 separate lots? Because that straight red line separating them, if that end was angled in some way, cutting out that driveway, that one, then they would be separate and you wouldn't have that.
Yeah, the way the code is written for RC5, it kind of looks like a block, a rectangle. You need 240 feet of frontage on a public road. There's a certain lot width, and that is just a really bizarre geometry to go in at. So you couldn't I could always try, but you couldn't push the driveway past that lot line. So we'd need an easement anyway. What I did do, the driveways is they're 140 feet apart. I'm usually hunting for 100 feet apart. And I just have it positioned right now in between the telephone poles, because there's a lot of poles along the frontage out there, so.
Any other comments or questions?
What's the general condition of that culvert that leads from the pond? Is it serviceable?
It seemed fine. I didn't go down into the culvert itself, but it's corrugated metal culvert. It seemed to be in good condition. It wasn't crushed, that I could see.
Okay.
And are there members of the public who would like to comment on this application?
Yeah, I have a
Please
question.
come up to the microphone and please let us have your name and address.
I'm Thomas Osborne. I own this property just to the left, and at the moment I'm just trying to get a good understanding of exactly what's envisioned here and what the future might be. What's on the left is this is a large house that Mr. Barrow owns, and I guess this whole large lot is her lot now, and it's this division here which is being discussed tonight. I'm not sure what the second house is on the right-hand side. Is that a building or?
We're just showing this right here.
Yeah,
It's a site that we think is good for a house.
good for a house.
Yeah, there's nothing on the property now. There's a shed out there, but there's no
Okay,
remnants
okay.
of any.
So that's somewhat what's envisioned in the future that would be at the house there.
Yes, we're trying to get it tucked up into the corner where the topography works, and then to get it away from the central Hudson
Okay.
easement as best as possible.
And what's on
Would
308?
you,
Is
sir,
there one or two
Sir,
houses?
would you please direct your comments to the planning board?
I'm
And then we will ask the applicant to
You
answer.
said you can't hear it, guys, can't even hear you, hardly.
Can't hear me?
Now, yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You've
I need
been
to
talking all night without people talking into the mic.
I beg your pardon, I wish you would have told me earlier. I'll be sure to do that. Thank you. So, do you have additional comments?
Well, questions. So down there along 308, there's what? One or two houses already?
The 308 on our side, I mean,
No.
there's no homes here. Yeah, there's the village highway garage, there's a small house that sits right on Freeway, there's a larger, older, I'm just gonna say Victorian looking home, which
Okay,
takes up more of the frontage.
I see. Well, I guess as the neighbor, I have no objections to anything. This will have no impact that I can see on myself and my neighbor below there. It's Neil Tobacco. I'm sure he's comfortable with this too. So I guess that concludes my question.
Thank you very much. Yes, please come to the microphone.
Hey, I'm Christy Coughlin. I'm on One Coop Lane. Sorry, I don't like public speaking.
None of us do.
But all I just want to say is that these two should be single-family homes, not like apartment buildings or anything like that. And that they should be blocked with like evergreen trees or something, so there's maximum privacy for everyone. I'm also concerned about gun safety. That's a major concern on One Coop Lane that we talked about last time. And I think that's all I've got. Oh, and the work time limits are very good.
I'm sorry, I missed that.
Work time limits.
The work time limits,
Yes.
when they're going to start in the morning and
Yeah,
end at
Monday
night.
to Friday, 9 to 5 or something like that. So it's not too early and too much noise.
Yeah, come on,
There are noise regulations in the code already, and that's what contractors have to look at. So just so it's clear for tonight, we're only looking at this from the subdivision perspective. The
Okay.
house locations and driveways shown on here are for the purposes of,
Got it.
we ask for that when we do this so that we can understand what might go on the site. Regarding guns, that's not something the planning board discusses. That's not in our code. It's not within the realm of the planning board review. But yeah, so what's proposed here, the uses that could go in there would have to be the uses that are permitted in the RC5, and most often that's a single family.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Those are just my points of concern or contention. I don't know.
Thank you very much. Are there any other members of the public who would like to speak? Yes, please come up.
Good evening, my name is Ross Garris. I'm one of those two houses that are right below. I'm going to approach things positively. I'm excited that we're now have some interesting projects. We have no problems with, in terms of the subdivision. I'm hopeful that because we have incredible meadowlands that welcome people into the village, and that those meadowlands that are home to bazillion pollinators are preserved. That Joe Pyreed and the goldenrods, and I'm also a beekeeper, a couple times spotting up to your property, right? But that's my only, I have no problem with people back there, and that they're not only developing and living there, but are stewards of that great land that we called our entry into Rhinebeck. That's it. You could go on forever. That's it. Thank you.
Could I address that just briefly?
Yeah.
Is, when we started off looking at this property, obviously it's 50 acres, it's a large piece. And to try to do something that kind of everyone would work for everyone, we in particular wanted to keep this undisturbed. So we looked at, a 7-lot subdivision or something more like that, and felt that the best kind of holistic approach was to put 2 houses in the back, not affect the view shed on the front. I really don't think anybody's going to want to mow the 20 acres, so I truly, my heart of hearts thinks it's going to go undisturbed. So that's our goal, is 2 houses in the very back, which substantially, I don't think you'll be able to see from the road, not in any substantial capacity.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I think we have a
Try to just answer my question.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm at Pam McDowell, 272 Route 308. So I'm directly, my view out my living room is the fields.
Yep.
So my question was, will I be seeing these houses?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
They're in the very back corner. So Peacock Lane is up here. So, whatever, but that's 100 feet from Peacock, 150 feet from Peacock, something.
If I can just ask, your house is here, I'm just guessing you're in here?
Yeah, I'm 272,
Right.
I'm like the third house on the left side of the
And just
highway
to,
department.
and just to give a little perspective, these driveways, 900 feet is to here. So I think this driveway was maybe 1,700 feet or something, but 900 feet brings us to here, and then you still have more. So
Okay.
you're looking at over 1,000 feet for sure.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other comments from the public? Then I think we're ready to close the public hearing, and I have a motion.
So moved.
A second.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And so we're ready for an approval resolution.
So for the board's consideration tonight, a draft approval resolution for Rhinebeck 2020 LLC Mill for minor subdivision and wetland permit under Town Code Chapter 101 and Chapter 120 for the subdivision of the existing lot into 2 lots under 308. Reaffirming the classifications unlisted under seeker. Based upon the information submitted and reviews undertaken, finding that the proposed work is consistent with the objectives stated in Chapter 101, subdivision of land. With respect to wetlands application, finding that the proposed action is consistent with Town Code Chapter 120. With respect to minor subdivision, finding the proposed action is consistent with Town Code Chapter 101, and asking you to approve the application inclusive of the subdivision plan sheets prepared by LRC Group date August 15, 2022, and authorizing the planning board chair to stamp and sign the above cited site plan upon the applicant's satisfaction of the 3 conditions listed there.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Michael and Craig, thank you very much. Joe, I'll start with you.
Aye.
Craig?
Aye.
Gillies?
Hi.
Michael?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Thank you very much and good luck.
Thank you.
Our next public hearing is Deborah Barrow, 21 Old Rock City Road.
I wanted to get up and talk about the previous application. Couldn't they have made that a flag lot and then the driveway could have been on the other driveway? It doesn't have to be 40 feet to be a flag lot, it could be 100 feet, still be a flag lot. But then you would resolve FERC issue as to whether or not the driveway, you have to have an easement for it, put it on its own lot. I just, I didn't want to overstep my bounds, but it was just something that came to mind while I was standing. All right, I'm Marie Welch, my client Deborah Barrow. Wants to introduce herself, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Deborah Barrow, and I lived in one of those properties for 39 years.
So the application before you tonight and before the public is to do a lot line adjustment to create, we're starting with a 5-acre lot, I'm sorry, a 3-acre lot and a 6.14 acre lot, and we're winding up with a 3-acre lot and a 6.14 acre lot. And we're just changing some lot lines so that the owner can move one line to the east, southeast a little bit so that she can continue to garden on her property should she decide to do something with the other one in the future. And she would maintain a hedgerow as a buffer for privacy between her 2 properties. And since the house lot that fronts on Old Rock City Road really doesn't have access, I mean, it has access physically to Bruce 308, but there's no proposal, you wouldn't be going through there with any kind of a driveway, so she would like to give up some of the frontage along Route 308 to go with the small lot at 1119, is that the right address? Route 308, and get some of the land that's on the back side of that property to give herself a little buffer behind her house and her pond. So that's, you're going to wind up with the same net, you're going to be 2 houses on 2 lots, and it's just going to be a different configuration of lot lines.
Thank you, Marie. Jim?
I have no issues. I said that last time, I have none now. The change in the lot lines results in a change of less than 1/100th of an acre or so. So for all intents and purposes, it's just a swap of land, moving a line on a map.
Thank you. And Craig, I think you were on the site visit.
Yeah, I made the site visit, and they're right, it really does make a lot more sense as far as the way the parcel is kind of rearranged. The larger lot, the big house, doesn't really communicate with the portion of the property that's being given over to the house that's on 308. And it doesn't really change anything about the status of either property. It's really just a simple redrawing of the line, so I think it's supportable.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the rest of us? Are there any members of the public who would like to comment on this? Since there are none, I'll take a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you very much. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. And our approval resolution.
Draft approval resolution for the board's consideration tonight for minor subdivision lot line alteration for Deborah Barrow under Town Code Chapter 101 at 21 Old Rock City Road and 119 Route 308. Reaffirming the classification is unlisted under seeker. Based upon the information submitted, a reviews undertaking, finding the proposed work is consistent with the objectives stated in Chapter 101 subdivision of land. With respect to the minor subdivision lot line alteration, asking the board to find that the proposed action is consistent with Town Code Chapter 101 and approve the application inclusive of the plan sheet prepared by Welsh Surveying dated August 15th, 2022. And then authorizing the planning board chair to stamp and sign based on the 3 items listed below.
Thank you, Jim. May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
And I will pull the board. Elise?
Aye.
And Michael?
Aye.
Craig?
Aye.
And Joe?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Now, there's no Mr. Kramer, leave that one in No, there's no S.
I will.
And our last public hearing, Jacob Briggs. Good evening.
Here, I'm here to try to get approval to replace the house that was burnt on January 18th. That's what I'm here for.
And are there other illustrations that you can mention?
So this is the site.
This is
plan.
at 19 Duchess Terrace,
Yes.
which is in the village, or in Rhinebeck.
In the hamlet, yeah.
Yeah.
So this is the lot layout that's shown on the plans, and then we also have renderings showing what's proposed as well. Remember, this is just a house burned down, so the lot's currently vacant. These are layouts. So this is probably.
And Jim, do you have any comments on this?
So there are 2. One that, the board can talk about is we did receive comments from HAPAC, and I think they had some questions about what was proposed for the exterior of the building in terms of material. We can get into that in a second. But the other one that I think is a bigger issue is that I don't believe you have approval from the county health department yet, right?
Correct.
So typically, in the planning, and anyone can correct me if I'm wrong, but typically the planning board doesn't do approvals without county planning, without county health approval. It's a big issue. And one of the reasons why is if you get approval from us now, and county health comes back and asks you to change something, you've got to come back and start the process all over again, pay all the fees and do all the hearing notices. So my recommendation, since we don't have approval from county health yet, would be to continue the public hearing so that we can, get to the point where county health, is reviewed and approved it, so the planning board can move forward. We don't have to go through starting the process over. But beyond that, I guess the only comment I have would just be any comments anyone has on the HAPAC note that was submitted. I have no other real comments about it. Generally speaking, I think the size and scale of the building is very similar to what was there previously. There's not any issues related to the code.
Okay. I would like the HAPAC comments to be read, and also, we had a site visit, it was Michael and Craig on this, I think, right?
Yeah.
I did not go to the site.
You
but I
were
think
able to
Michael,
make it.
Michael saw it.
I did. There's a hole in the ground. That's about it.
Okay.
I don't know what else I can add to that.
Craig, could I ask you to read the APAC
Yeah, sure.
comments? That's the last paragraph. And I believe the historical and archaeological comments were sent also to you, is that correct?
Yes.
Right, okay.
Right. The letter from HAPAC says this is a reasonable submission. The owner is not required to replicate the house that was destroyed. Of merit is the overall scale and the details employed, including the central gable facing the street and the vertical board and batten siding. Both of these features are well suited to the vernacular vocabulary within the hamlet. Nonetheless, there are several issues of concern. First is the use of vinyl siding, which is inappropriate for a historic district. The use of hardy plank or a similar synthetic siding would be preferable. The horizontal joints and seams in the siding at each floor level that are a function of the materials used should be avoided. The use of raised open decks is problematic on a street frontage and on-grade patio, or it should say an on-grade patio, or a covered porch would be preferable. Lastly, one might wish to consider 2/2 windows rather than the 6/6 windows presently shown. And from what I understand, the board and batten siding is a pattern that is being, you're planning to put that in vinyl panels that are arranged in that configuration?
I'm Bob Zetterberg, I'm the builder. It's a hardy product, hardy plank, so it's vertical hardy panels, so it's a masonry siding, basically.
Okay.
It is not vinyl.
All right. Now, is there something about the lengths of those units that limits?
There is, they only come in 10-foot lengths being the longest length. So
Okay.
you would have a horizontal board at a 10-foot height.
Right.
To cover that seam and weatherproof.
Okay. And then that's going to carry through each panel side by side?
Yes, yes it will.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's what he was commenting on, but I think it might have been a misunderstanding that.
Okay, and the
vinyl.
I mean, the windows 2/2 versus 6/6, I mean, that's something for Jake and Annette to decide. The patio or the porch in the front, and the side porch here, yeah, bluestone patios are nice, but they're costly. So.
Okay, but this is not a balcony, or it's just
No,
an
these are all,
elevated
these are all
platform?
first floor level, yeah.
Other members of our board, what are your thoughts on this? APAC recommendation?
I just have one more question about the siding. So it's a paintable material
It
that
is.
mimics, it resembles wood.
Yes,
So
it
that's-
does. Yeah,
that
it's
matches the
smooth
front.
in texture, it doesn't have a
Okay.
wood grain,
Okay.
but it is paintable.
So how is that siding applied such that a seam is not noticed? Is it,
The panels come 4 foot wide, and so the battens vertically run every 16 inches, so
I
you're
see.
covering,
It comes 4 feet long.
right, you're
It's not
covering that
single
every 4 feet,
boards.
so you don't see the seams at all. It'll look very much like, if you can imagine, a wood board and batten, rough sawn pine board and batten that you've probably seen before.
Right.
Is there any other view of the proposed deck? Or I'm a little confused about exactly what's happening here.
That's on the riverside.
Yeah, where the French doors are, that's what faces the river.
I see. So I'm looking at that view at a porch, right?
That's the front porch on the road.
Porch.
Yeah.
And is there a side view of this, Jim?
Of this?
Yeah,
That's where it's, that was the other one.
that shows the deck from the side.
Right there.
That's the front porch, and then the deck's over there.
So this is the front of the
Oh,
house.
okay,
facing
there we
the river.
go.
We're looking there, looking there.
What's the overall elevation of the porch surface? Is it more than
It's not more than
18 inches?
No.
Okay, so it would not,
It does not require a rail.
Doesn't require a rail.
Right.
And Craig, what is HAPAC saying about the deck again?
They said, I got a sense from this that they were talking about almost like a balcony that should be avoided. It says the use of raised open decks is problematic. And I'm not sure what goes into that, because if it's elevated beyond a certain point, you have to put a railing in, and that
Right.
creates a visual clutter that might be not appropriate. But if it's
You don't want a railing because it'll, the view.
Yeah.
The view.
And I think, Michael, do we not have design guidelines for the district?
Well, we do have design guidelines, basically can apply to the whole town, based on the architecture found in different quotes in the town. So we do have design guidelines. This actually quite faithfully does.
It
goes into account in terms of the design, and actually fits in quite nicely.
Right. And I think there's probably a context that can be found, similar buildings in the
I'm sure there are.
region,
Yeah.
The general area of the hamlet that would justify this as a design element.
And that is a lot of what we look at for the design. This is what's in the area, what's surrounding it, for similar, look and feel. The other comment I was going to make, I do think we need to continue this public hearing because we don't have county health approval, so we can go back to HAPAC and ask for clarification and make sure that, they kind of saw it the same way we were discussing it tonight. Just ask to clarify that a little bit for the next discussion.
That's a good idea.
I do have one more question, just because the discussion about converting to bluestone, which is very expensive. What is the decking material? Has that been thought?
It's a composite deck.
It's a composite.
The Trex.
The Trex.
Yeah.
And you'll finish the ends so that you don't see the little
Yeah.
the little
Yeah,
point.
it has a matching band board that
Okay,
goes
yeah.
around, so it's very thin.
Not to get too deep in the weeds, but
Yes,
that's
yeah.
the one thing that I think of when people say tracks.
Yep.
And Jim, could you go back to the illustration that shows the deck? Okay, there we go, thank you. So where would you see that deck from? If you were...
On Corning Street?
I can bring up the aerial.
Yeah, you'd see the side of this on Corning Street, you'd see the front of it on Dutchess Terrace. We're right on the corner.
And so what would I see if I'm looking at the edge of it? I'd see the edge of the track, which is going to be finished.
Yeah, presumably you'd see just a horizontal board. So it would be a nosing or some sort
The
of.
wood frame of the deck is also covered with a composite material that matches the Trex. So you wouldn't see anything unfinished on the edges.
And is any landscaping envisioned around?
I'm not involved with landscaping.
Near the deck, around the deck?
I'm sure we will, yes. I don't know when, we just would like to get the house going and get some place to live.
Yes, I can imagine.
So I can put this up on the screen, just to put it in perspective. So this is a Google image of the house. This is Dutchess Terrace, and we're looking the river. So this would be the front,
Where that little room is will be probably where the deck would be.
and then the other one would be on this side, on Corning. So you can around the corner here,
Right.
be on this side.
All of that screening is gone now, or what?
Yeah, everything.
Everything's
Everything's
gone.
gone,
Everything's
right.
gone. Just a big hole.
Any other questions, comments? Any comments from the public? Anyone like to speak on this? Hearing none.
That's Richard.
Oh, we do have, please come up and speak.
My name is Richard Kopushansky. I live in Rhinecliff. The design of this house is, I think, it's a pretty nice design. You won't even know between hardy board and regular board when that goes on there. So, I mean, I built an office right in the middle of Rhinecliff, and at the stop sign right across, that's all hardy board. I mean, it looks just like wood, you don't have to, it's not gonna rot, so it's pretty good. So the design of this, and the windows, you know, whether it's 2 over 2 or 6 over 6, I mean, it goes either way, you know. Some people, traditionalists will say 2 over 2, but this is quite nice as well for the time, I think. And so it looks as if the roof is going to be metal, is that correct?
Yes.
Is it the typical seam?
Standing seam.
Standing seam?
Yes.
Yeah. But which is also very, very nice. Yeah, it's right on the corner, so that's like not just it's a wraparound porch, I guess. Yeah?
It doesn't connect. It
Oh, it
doesn't
doesn't
actually
really?
wrap around. They are separated.
Yeah, you can see it here, Richard, it's ends here.
Oh, I see, yeah. Personally, I would have wrapped it around, but that's that's like 2 over 2 or 6 over 6. Anyway, and so what I didn't understand that, Jim, that you said, so the public hearing can't really close without getting approval from the Dutchess County Health Department?
Correct.
Is that?
The planning board does not typically close a public hearing until they're ready to take a vote on the action.
Right.
We shouldn't close the public hearing and consider it now, because even if we did that as a contingent approval, contingent upon getting approval from the county health department, the county health department requested a change, then we'd have to start all over again with the process, all the filing new applications. So we continue the public hearing, so we don't have to renotice the start over.
That's pretty smart, because
It's a safe way
sense.
to go, and in the end, it will create less issues if we have a change that comes forward.
Well,
we need county health approval on this, particularly in the sense that
I think you do too. I think you do too, but I think the look of the house is in keeping with the hamlet, and I think what Mr. Trimble said there's just a hole in the ground to observe, and that's all it is. And I hear it's pretty good soil for a septic system, so I guess they'll have to see what they can come up with. But, yeah, the look of the house, as far as I'm concerned, the hamlet fence.
Thank you. Any other comments from the public? I think we need a motion to continue the public hearing. What is a reasonable date?
Well, so the next meeting would be the November 21st, for about a month. Do you think you'll hear from the county health by then? Do you want to push it
I
back?
certainly hope so, yes.
If you guys wanted to break the track, the next one would be December 5th for that, which would give you a little bit more time, but not pushing it.
I think we will get approval. They just made some.
Yeah, we proceeded hoping that they'd let us use the existing system that was there, and they won't. So we submitted this morning a redesign of the system, and our engineer tells us that it should go fairly quick. So I'm hoping that, by the November date, we should be good.
Yeah.
All right,
So
may I
November
have
21st?
Yeah, November 21st, yep.
a motion then to continue the public hearing to November 21st?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Have a good night.
Good night.
See you later.
And last, we have a ZBA referral on the Lloyd application, which is on Morton Road. Jim?
Just gonna bring up the site plan. So the referral is a referral from the ZBA for the variances that they did let us know when they had approved, they had applied for it, at the ZBA when they heard from the planning board last month. And if you remember when we went through these plans, they had lots of lines on here showing where the existing setbacks were and other leader lines showing kind of what was where. In order for them to do what they want, they need several variances. They need a side yard variance for the east side of the property for the principal structure. 150 feet is required, only 62.5 is proposed. They need a variance for the front yard setback for the studio. 200 feet is required, 145 is It's about 145 and a half is proposed. And then they also need a variance to permit the accessory structure, which is the artist studio, to be located closer to the street than the principal structure, which is the single-family home. And that artist studio is here. The area shaded here is an easement where they can't develop, so to put it in perspective. So the ZBA has asked the planning board for their comments on these three variances. And the application is currently before you.
And I had mentioned to Jim that for me, it's hard to really think about this because Greg and I are going to go take a look on Wednesday, at the site. And with that information in mind, I think we'd be better prepared to make recommendations to the ZBA. So I suggest that we tell the ZBA that we need a little more time, that we're going to be looking at the site ourselves, and that at our next meeting, we will give them a more specific referral.
The next meeting, Gretchen, is it a public hearing or submit?
Public hearing is the next meeting.
Well, the problem becomes it's the public hearing, and if all comment is not received by then it'll be another month for another continuous public hearing, then another month for the resolution.
Oh, is that the case? I thought we did have more time.
It's usually how they work.
Well, like I said, usually they get it done in 3, so they have the presentation, then they have a public hearing, and then they would read the resolution at the end. So I said, if we didn't comment now, we would be submitting it between typically when they would have the public hearing and the final. But I don't know, Gretchen, if they don't, or Michael, if they don't close the public hearing at the meeting on Wednesday because
I
they
can always
didn't
let
get a
them know that
referral.
that's what you want to do. They may not close the public hearing then.
Right.
Sometimes they'll close it and then do the resolution if they're waiting for something. But I don't.
But they don't typically make a decision right after the public hearing is closed, do they?
Correct, no.
No, the following month.
So
No, but they usually try to get all the referrals. But still, even if it hasn't been 30 days, they still have time. So you can still get it.
Even if you see things that are concerning after the site visit, right, we can still make different suggestions. I know it doesn't exactly affect the variances, right? Like if something comes up around the archaeological, right, that was one of the concerns of the guest house location. It was 10 feet, which was very close to these stone walls and other things.
Right.
Right, can we make a suggestion based on that regardless of the variances?
And they will do their site visit after their public hearing. They don't do them before. So.
Okay.
It is an interesting site.
Right.
Sounds of elevations
To
and.
taking a look at it. So where are you all coming out on this? My suggestion.
I'm kind of confused because we have to make our site visit on Wednesday,
Right.
no matter what. And then we will not report our findings until they're scheduled for the public hearing.
Right.
And at some point, the ZBA has to do something, and that's not really within our control, so.
Well, the planning board, the ZBA sends referrals to us
Yes.
to tell them whether or not we think that there might be, quote, planning issues, right? If you read Jim's minutes, he's suggesting there's the possibility that perhaps they don't need an accessory dwelling, or, something could be smaller. Would you consider that a planning issue, Jim?
But potentially, and this is, part of the problem, the timing on this almost never works, but it is before the planning board, so as Elise said, the variances will allow them to then go and do what they want, but it still has to come before the planning board for final approval. So if they get the variances and you decide you don't like what they're doing, there's nothing to say, you couldn't say you can't do that as part of your review, but it does, I think, become a little more complicated if they have the variance for that. But it requires planning board review, so.
There does seem to be a multiplicity of variances requested in order to get this project shoehorned into the available footprint.
It is admittedly a very small footprint, but you're absolutely right.
I think it really kind of tests the boundaries of how we want our community to develop. So, but that's short of seeing the actual site and, getting into greater depth and hearing what the applicant has to present. But if those are planning issues, then I would say, yeah, there are planning issues.
Yeah, there might be.
Let's mean it in the kind of second.
So my proposal is that we let the ZBA know that we are going to be doing a site visit. And after that site visit and discussion with the board, we may have additional comments to make about the variance requests. Is that okay?
Just walking through this once more, which we were saying in the beginning, which was that if we don't give comments prior to then, it will postpone what, another month? Was that what we were trying to understand?
Conceivably, they usually keep very strict to closing the public hearing and then assigning one of the members to write the resolution.
Yeah.
For the next meeting, they only meet once a month. And so that would be a month from the closure of the public hearing. I mean, sometimes they can say, continue the public hearing, but have a draft of the resolution approving or disapproving, whatever it's going to be, on the date of the continued public hearing. And then if there's no further comments other than we provide, or further questions, they could then close the public hearing, and if they were satisfied, then they could, I would assume, take up the approved resolution. They could do that. There's nothing that stops them, it's just not their normal routine, that's all.
I'll just tell you my comfort, everyone can go around and say theirs. I think your site plan visit is very important in the process. I'm excited to see what the findings are. I think based on the variances, like having a guest house in front of, the primary structure, those things, we may need them to tweak as planning board anyway, but by structure of that variance, I have no problem with that as a baseline. So for me, I'm comfortable with the variances, with the knowing that as planning board and through the lens of you two, we're going to make tweaks and may or may not have certain approvals anyway. So I'm okay with that, but that's just my personal opinion.
Okay, how do the rest of you feel?
I don't have a problem with it. I've spent hours on the phone with them over this, but I have nothing to say myself. Maybe years.
It's been over a year.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's an extraordinarily difficult site. I think that we need the site visit for our own edification. And I think since the planning board is going to be saying something to the ZBA, we would like it to come from the planning board after hearing from you guys after we do the site visit.
Right.
One of the things we've talked about with all of our different committees, CAB and all those, we would hope that they would have a site visit where one or two members go back and then discuss amongst themselves what they saw, and then as a committee, make a recommendation to us, not an individual recommendation. And I think if we're going to try to keep with that, I think we kind of have to wait for you guys to go look and come back and report to us.
Right, and I don't think anyone's going to be building houses through the winter. I don't think we're going to be holding them up.
I don't think so either.
Not going to be pouring concrete in December.
And there's going to be a whole lot of concrete with this, so, no, there's definitely not going to be building until next year at the earliest.
And just to help you justify this, it is, it's on a scenic road, it's on the Hudson River, it is a constrained site, and it's immediately adjacent to Wilderstein, which is
The next door
significantly
neighbor.
smaller site. So
Right.
those issues alone, I think, could justify, whatever decision you want to make, but certainly, taking the time to go through it. It's a more complicated site. Like that.
All right, so do we have any objections to doing this?
No.
All right, so then let's go ahead and send that. I propose that we send that kind of response to the ZBA.
And we'll continue the discussion on November 7th, in 2 weeks.
Yes,
I second that.
thank you.
Aye.
And thank everyone for voting aye. All right. Are we now ready for a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.